We spend our days immersed in narrow passions and interests without ever raising our eyes to the infinite. But what we see, what we touch, is mere appearance. Reality, the one that truly matters, is invisible. My name is Adrienne, and like you, I am a citizen of the cosmos. For a long time, we lived as if this small spacecraft called Earth was the only thing that existed. But what happens when the invisible decides to reveal itself? Welcome to my laboratory of the invisible. Look around. What do you see? Precision machines, monitors displaying the icy glow of distant stars, and calculations that seem at first glance like mere lifeless numbers. But here, in the silence of the night, I learned that science is just a way of translating a presence that humanity has felt since the beginning of time. In this space, I am not just surrounded by technology. I feel the presence of Urania. Not as a figure of marble or bronze, but as a living idea that permeates every atom of this laboratory. Have you ever wondered why, among so many muses, the ancient Greeks dedicated one exclusively to the heavens? In Greek mythology, Urania was the eldest of the 9 muses, the one who presided over astronomy. But for the Greeks, she was not just the guardian of star maps. She was the force that directed the choir of the spheres. They believed that the movement of the planets created a divine music, a perfect harmony that the human ear, in its raw state, could not capture. The Greek Urania held a compass and a telescope, precision instruments that symbolized the search for truth. She represented the angelic idea that hovers above our earthly errors. The ancients knew something that we, with all our technology, often forget. That the study of the sky is not just to weigh stones in space, but to raise our soul to a state of higher consciousness. Many ask me, Adrienne, how can an astrophysicist believe in muses and celestial inspirations? The answer lies in what happens when scientific data reaches the limit of what it can explain. Sometimes, while I adjust a telescope, I feel a kind of silent instruction, as if the universe wanted to be understood. This is the modern Urania. She is the spark of intuition that occurs between a formula and a dream. She is the beauty that transforms mathematics into poetry. The mystery is not in a statue, but in the way the invisible communicates with us. I began to realize that the reality we touch is just a veil, and that Urania is the one who invites us to lift it. But how can this immaterial idea become so real that it changes our physical perception of the Earth? Urania haunts me. In my dreams, she becomes real. She reaches out her hand, and her voice is not human. It sounds like divine music that vibrates in the depths of the soul. she tells me, "Come to heaven, far from earth. You shall behold the vast universe." In one of these dreams, I felt my body lose its weight. I saw the observatory and the city lights rapidly diminish below me. I had the sensation of a magical ascension toward the zenith. The geography of the Earth became minuscule. Our planet was reduced to the dimensions of a full little moon, floating lonely in the black vacuum. Urania showed me that the Earth is not the center, but just a floating island, a village in the great solar homeland. I answer with what I learned from the notebooks of Neil, my mentor. Neil was an eminent scientist who lived haunted by the dilemma of to be or not to be. He sought to understand if life was fleeting or an eternal destiny. Neil discovered that matter is an illusion. Your eyes would see that everything, even your own body, is nothing more than whirlpools of atoms that never touch. We are an incessantly renewed flame. The real is the invisible. Neil's Urania taught me that astronomy is not just for weighing stones in space. It is the guide of philosophy. It shows us that we are spiritual beings wearing, temporarily, a clothing of air. Have you ever stopped to think that almost everything you are, physically, belongs to the invisible? Science confirms that 96% of our body mass is made of atmospheric elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. We are the sky walking on Earth. Imagine holding a small pin. Feel the cold metal, the sharp tip, the apparent unchangeability of this small piece of steel. To your senses, it is solid and static, right? But science tells us a story that breaks this perception. What I am about to reveal to you now changes everything you think about your own nature. If your eyes could see atomic reality, you would discover that this tiny pinhead contains 8 sextillion atoms. Try to visualize this number. 8,000 billion particles in perpetual motion. If we decided to count these atoms, one by one, at a speed of 1,000 per second, it would take us 2,530 centuries to finish. But here lies the great secret that Neil, my mentor, taught me. These atoms never touch. There is an immense void between each one of them, proportionally larger than the distance between the planets in our solar system. What we call solid is in fact a resistance of forces. If we could observe the intimate structure of an iron bar, we would not see metal, but something like a whirlpool of gnats swirling in the atmosphere of a hot summer day. Nothing is static. Everything is space and motion. Neil used to say that the infinitely large is identical to the infinitely small. Just as the stars gravitate in the vacuum of space, atoms gravitate in the vacuum of matter. There is no real distinction between astronomy and molecular physics. They are just different methods of observing the same unit. What maintains the shape of this pin? It is force, an immaterial and invisible entity that moves atoms. If just one of these atoms ceased to be moved by this force, the entire universe would stall. We are, literally, surrounded by microscopic solar systems that spin in silence under our skin. Matter is just a mode of motion. And this leads us to you. Your body is not a fixed statue of flesh. You are a flame incessantly renewed by molecules of air. This frenetic dance is happening right now in your veins. Each globule of your blood is a world in itself, and you have about 5 million of them per cubic millimeter in your brain, in your nerves, and in your heart. Everything circulates, everything walks, and everything rushes in a vital whirlpool. We are like a river. The water you see now is no longer the same as it was a second ago. Molecule by molecule, your organism renews itself so quickly that in a few months, you inhabit an entirely new body. The molecules that form your eyes belonged yesterday to the atmosphere, or perhaps to another living being. We are all dead resurrected, made with the elements that have already served past generations. Here, we open the question that challenges materialistic logic. If the matter of your body changes constantly, if your atoms don't even touch, and if everything in you is a flow of gas and energy, what makes you continue to be you? If identity does not reside in atoms, where does it reside? Wouldn't the answer be in the invisible? What keeps these trillions of atoms united in a perfect harmony? Wouldn't be the dynamism of the soul? The organizing psychic atom, this center of force that Neil sought so much, is the only real and indestructible entity. The body is just the transitory appearance. The soul is the essential principle. We are spiritual beings, ruling a whirlpool of light and force. The real is the invisible. You are not a prisoner of the flesh. You are a citizen of the cosmos, temporarily wearing a clothing of air. But if matter is this fleeting flow, what remains of our actions? Where does the smile you gave yesterday go? Or the tear that fell a year ago? Today, the doors of my laboratory of the invisible open to one of Urania's most poetic revelations. I will show you that space is not a silent vacuum, but an immense and eternal memory album. Everything that has already happened in the history of the world is still happening somewhere in the universe. Everything, every battle, every kiss, every secret still persists. Yesterday hasn't died, it has simply traveled. To understand this, we need to look at light. It is the messenger of the infinite. Science teaches us that light travels at 300,000 kilometers per second. It is a fantastic speed, capable of circling the Earth 7 times in the blink of an eye. But in the immense vacuum of the cosmos, this speed is slow. When you look at the moon, you don't see it as it is now, but as it was just over a second ago. The sunlight touching your skin took 8 minutes to get here. If the sun went out at this exact moment, you would still see it shining for 8 full minutes, ignorant of the end of a star. This delay is our key. The further we look into space, the deeper we dive into the past. Neil, my mentor, used to say that there are no telescopes, but rather time machines. If we were now on a star, located 100 light years away, and had a telescope capable of focusing on the Earth's surface, we would not see this laboratory. We would see the world of a century ago. We would see our great-grandparents as young dreamers, living lives that, for us, have already ended, but that for the light of that star are just beginning. Urania took me in one of those lucid dreams to the depths of the ether. As we moved away from Earth, history receded before my eyes. When we reached the distance of 18 light centuries, she expanded my vision. I saw Gaul in the time of Julius Caesar. I saw the Roman legions marching. I heard the clamor of the war for independence by Vercingetorix. That was not a recording. It was the real image of Earth, leaving 18 centuries ago. Understand the weight of this. The history of all worlds is currently traveling through the sky without ever completely disappearing. Past acts are indestructible within the heart of the infinite. What we call vacuum is in fact a reservoir of images where time dilutes. Nothing is lost. Every gesture of yours at this very moment is beginning its eternal journey to the stars. This leads us to a melancholy but liberating realization. Many of the stars you admire in the night sky may no longer exist. They may have exploded in supernovas thousands of years ago. But their photograph continues to travel, crossing the vacuum to find your eyes tonight. We are surrounded by ghosts of light. If our physical images are eternal, what can be said of our anemic forces? If light doesn't let a fact die, why would nature let a soul disappear? Neil wrote in his diary that the spirit governs matter, and what it does in space it realizes in time. Death is just a horizon, and a horizon is nothing more than the limit of our vision. Just as the light of the dead star continues to illuminate the navigator, the soul shines in other dimensions. We vibrate in other mansions in the Father's house. We are citizens of the cosmos, and our homeland is not made of stones, but of light and eternal progress. Understanding the eternity of time is the second step to your awakening. The real, as I always say, is the invisible. But if the universe keeps our images and space connects us all by invisible threads of attraction, how can we communicate with those who have already crossed the veil? But if the universe keeps our images, how does our self process this eternity? Reality is the invisible. But what happens when a scientific genius reaches the limit of reason and faces the abyss of nothingness? Where lies the force that prevents us from vanishing into dust? In the next episode, I will introduce you to the man who taught me to see the invisible. We will dive into Neil's tormented mind and discover how the study of the brain led him to the definitive proof of the soul. I'll see you in Neil and the Crisis of the Soul. Until then, keep looking at the stars, knowing that they are also looking at you. This is Dr. Adrienne in her laboratory of the invisible. Subscribe to Urania series to continue your ascent.